There are places in the world that are not on any map, hidden between hills or behind veils of mist. Wormwood was one such place, tucked away in the green rolling hills of New England. If you tried to find it, you'd fail. Maps and phones only led to confusion. Wormwood did not want to be found by just anyone. It was a secret, a quiet whisper in a noisy world. To find it, you had to follow the oldest winding roads and trust your heart more than any sign. The village revealed itself slowly, a hint of smoke, a dark rooftop, a place from another time. The people were quiet, living by the turning of the seasons, not the ticking of a clock. They guarded the secrets of the woods and the language of the wind. Wormwood remained hidden, a pocket of mystery in a world that tried to explain everything. It was a place where stories felt more real than facts, and the past was simply sleeping. Not for everyone, but for the right person. It was everything. A beginning, an ending, and a question. The village waited patiently, always hoping for someone who understood that the best places are the ones you have to search for. The first thing you'd notice about Wormwood was the fog, a permanent resident clinging to the ground and softening the world. It muffled sounds, turning footsteps into whispers and voices into secrets. The fog invited you to look closer, to notice the small details. The trees were twisted, their branches like gnarled fingers, shaped by wind, fog, and secrets. They stood as silent guardians, part of the village's quiet magic. Wormwood felt outside of time. Days and years blurred, and the modern world seemed far away. Here, time flowed like a slow river, and the villagers moved with calm, unhurried grace. The fog was not a barrier, but a comfort, a gentle reminder that some things are meant to be mysterious. The village was a place of soft lines and gentle questions, making you thoughtful and a little dreamy. The constant fog hid Wormwood from the world, but for those who lived there, it was home. The whispers in the fog were not scary, they were the village telling its stories. In Wormwood, mystery was a way of life. The villagers understood that not everything needed to be explained. The fog was their shield, their secret, and their invitation to wonder. For those who listened, the fog spoke in stories. And in Wormwood, stories were everything. At the center of Wormwood stood a building of dark, weathered stone, the Wormwood Public Library. It looked more like a fortress than a library, with thick walls, narrow windows, and a heavy oak door. Iron lanterns flanked the entrance, though no one had ever seen them lit. The library had a reputation: cursed, haunted, avoided. Villagers spoke of strange lights and sad sounds, warning children to stay away. The library was an outcast, a silent building holding its secrets tightly. Old Man Hemlock claimed his grandfather left the library with hair white as snow, never speaking of what he saw. Mistress Gable said the books whispered to each other, telling tales not meant for human ears. Stories grew darker with each generation, and the library became a monster in the village's midst. Moss grew in the cracks and the iron lanterns rusted in the fog. The village decided to forget the library, leaving it to its ghosts and curses. But forgotten things wait, for someone more curious than cautious. The library waited patiently, a locked box full of mysteries. It was the stone heart of Wormwood, beating quietly in the shadows. Her name was Elsbeth Moryn, and she was not like the others in Wormwood. While they avoided the library, she was drawn to it, seeing wonder where others saw fear. Elsbeth loved forgotten things, old keys, broken teacups, faded postcards. She believed every forgotten thing had a story, and she listened patiently. The library was the greatest forgotten thing of all, a treasure chest of lost tales. Elsbeth felt different from the other children, preferring the woods and the creek to games in the square. She saw faces in trees and heard songs in the wind. The villagers called her a dreamer, but she didn't mind. The library's scary stories made her curious, not afraid. She felt a connection to the lonely stone building, as if it were waiting for a friend. Elsbeth decided she would be that friend, the one to remember it. For years, Elsbeth's visits were the same, sitting, listening, wondering. The door stayed locked, the windows dark, but she was patient. She left small gifts on the steps, a stone, a leaf, a blue jay feather. She whispered her secrets to the silent walls, hoping the library would one day answer. One autumn afternoon, she found an old iron key on the step, a perfect match for the library's door. It felt ancient and important, as if the library itself had given it to her. Heart-pounding, she slid the key into the lock and turned it. A loud, groaning click echoed across the square, the sound of something old waking up. The heavy oak door creaked open, revealing not darkness, but a soft, gentle light and the scent of old paper and time. Elsbeth promised herself and the library that she would be careful and respectful. She stepped inside, her curiosity stronger than her fear. The moment felt like a ceremony, a long-awaited invitation. The library had chosen her, and she was ready. The world outside faded away as she crossed the threshold. She was no longer just a visitor, she was part of the story. The adventure she'd dreamed of was finally beginning, and the library welcomed her home. Elsbeth stepped inside, greeted by the thick scent of history, old paper, leather and peaceful dust. The light was soft and golden, glowing from iron lanterns that burned with no fuel, as if by magic. Shadows danced in the corners, and the air sparkled with dust motes like tiny stars. The silence was full, heavy with the weight of 1,000 stories waiting to be read. Elsbeth listened, almost hearing the faint whisper of pages turning. The library felt alive, a place where time had settled gently on every surface. The lanterns glowed steadily, pushing back the darkness and revealing hidden wonders. Elsbeth's fear vanished, replaced by awe and a sense of homecoming. She took another step, feeling the magic in the air. The library was not just a building, it was a living, breathing thing. Every corner promised adventure, every shadow a secret. Elsbeth belonged here, in the heart of forgotten stories. The library was one vast room, its ceiling lost in shadow bookshelves stretching impossibly high. Ladders on wheels invited exploration of the highest, dustiest corners. Elsbeth walked the central aisle, running her fingers along spines in languages she didn't recognize. These were not ordinary books, they felt ancient, powerful, filled with forgotten knowledge. At a round table a large book lay open, maps of impossible places, sky islands, sunken cities, forests of silver leaves. Elsbeth was mesmerized. The library contained not just stories, but whole worlds. A gentle breeze stirred the air, rustling the pages and carrying faint echoes. A poem, a blacksmith's hammer, a lullaby. The stories seemed to leak out, filling the silence with their presence. The library was not haunted by ghosts, but by stories longing to be remembered. Elsbeth felt the magic in every breath. She realized she was not alone. The stories were alive around her. The library was waiting for someone to listen, and Elsbeth was ready to hear every tale. Elsbeth lost herself in the maze of shelves, each aisle a new adventure. She found books on magical creatures, herbology, and constellations with names she'd never heard. Every book was a discovery, every page a doorway. She chose a small blue leather book with no title and sat at the round table. The story inside was about a girl who could talk to the fog, a girl who felt very much like Elsbeth. She realized the library was a sanctuary for forgotten magic and wonder. Elsbeth belonged here. Her curiosity and love for lost things made her part of the library's story. The villagers feared what they didn't understand, but for Elsbeth, the library was home. Here, being different was special, not strange. She closed the book, feeling peace and purpose settle over her. She was not just a visitor, she was the library's keeper. The library had chosen her, and she accepted. In this place of impossible maps and magical books, Elsbeth finally felt understood. She was home. Elsbeth became the secret librarian of Wormwood, visiting daily with the iron key around her neck. She read about star sailors and shadow weavers, swept the floors, and cared for every book. She was no longer just a girl who loved forgotten things, she was their guardian. Her eyes grew brighter, filled with wonder, and she carried a quiet confidence. The library gave her purpose, showing her that curiosity was a gift, not a quirk. In a world chasing the new, she cherished the old and mysterious. Forgotten places like the Wormwood Library held a special magic, echoes of the past and the promise of discovery. They reminded her that not everything needs to be explained. Some things are meant to be wondered at. Curiosity is the heart of every adventure, the key to every locked door. Elsbeth's journey was a testament to the power of a curious heart. She was not afraid of the unknown, she was drawn to it. The greatest treasures are not always the ones that glitter, but those that wait patiently in the dust, hoping to be remembered. And in Wormwood, Elsbeth found her story and became its keeper.